Hey, are you looking to relocate to Tampa Bay and the Tampa Bay area? Well, this video is for you, and I'm gonna go over hurricane tips, how to build out a hurricane kit, and show you a little bit of the aftermath of Hurricane Idalia. Thankfully, it did hit further north than the Tampa St. Pete area. My neighborhood is good, but there have been some flooding in Tampa and the St. Pete area. As you can see here, I'm right by the bay. You can see the water is still kind of choppy, but it's not high like it was. It was way higher this morning. Over here is the Gandy Bridge, and then this bridge in the distance is the Howard Franklin. Both of those bridges had water coming up to it earlier today. If I can, get over to those areas and show you some of the flooding that has occurred, and then I'll also go over some hurricane tips and a hurricane kit that you can have. Because if you're moving to this area, it's not guaranteed that you're gonna have a hurricane, but you do wanna be prepared just in case. Thankfully, the hurricanes have missed this area for the most part. We have not taken a direct hit, and even this hurricane did not take a direct hit on Tampa and St. Pete. What really made the flooding was some of the storm surge because the hurricane was north of this area. So the biggest part is just to be prepared. It's always a possibility during hurricane season that Tampa and the surrounding area can be hit. But like I said, we haven't had a direct hit in over 100 years. So thankfully that was true again this time, but there was some flooding with the storm surge. Hey, thanks for checking out this video. My name is Alyssa. I'm a local realtor here in the Tampa Bay area. If you're liking this content, be sure to subscribe below, tap that bell for notifications so you can be the very first one to know everything there is to know about living in the Tampa Bay area. And if you're looking to move in 9 days or 90 days, give me that call, shoot me that text, or send me that email. I can't wait to hear from you. All right, let's check out more of these hurricane tips. Hey, after Hurricane Idalia, we wanted to go over some hurricane safety tips for you, especially if you're new to the area or you're looking to relocate. You want to make sure that you have a safety plan in case a hurricane comes. Thankfully, this time, St. Pete and Tampa did not have a direct hit, but they did feel the after effects, the outer bands of the hurricane from Hurricane Idalia. So there was some tide surge where the water came up high and did flood some of the areas by the local beaches. But the majority of St. Pete and Tampa were good. But any of those like Bayshore Drive, Shore Acres, Snow Isle in St. Pete, any of the beach areas in St. Pete Beach, Madeira, those did have tide surge. So one of the common phrases that you're going to hear is run from the wind, hide from the water. So that means that they don't really want you out and about, and you do have to watch for that tide surge. So that's when the tide comes in, the water's going to get up higher, and that's when flooding can occur. So some safety tips for you are, first, you're going to want to clear your yard. Make sure you don't have any trash cans, any loose objects that can be flying around, because the main threats of a hurricane is going to be high wind and, of course, the water. So if you can secure any of those items, put the trash cans in the garage, anything like that. You're going to want to cover your doors and windows. You're going to want to review your emergency plan. You're going to want to check for supplies. I'm going to go over what all should be in your hurricane kit. You're going to want to have a go bag of supplies if you do have to evacuate. If you do have to evacuate, you want to know the different routes to evacuate. You're going to want to check all your supplies. You're going to want to set up an out-of-town contact that you can call in case of emergency. So it wants to be someone that's not dealing with the hurricane threat. You're going to want to secure all of your important documents, put them in a weatherproof box. If they're super important and you have to evacuate, take those documents with you. And then be aware of your vehicle and its surroundings. Like I said, water is going to be one of the biggest threats in a hurricane. So one, you don't want to be driving over down power lines. That's very dangerous. And then two, don't drive through standing water. Even if you have an SUV or truck, I know it can be tempting thinking, oh, I can just power through, but people get into a situation where they don't realize how deep the water really is. And all it takes is a little bit of water and it can go sideways and you might end up having to get rescued because, you decided to go through water that you really shouldn't have. So that's a really important thing. And then you're going to want to follow the instructions of the local officials. So if they're telling you to evacuate, that is what you're going to want to do. So all of those are key tips for staying safe in the threat of a hurricane. Like I said, luckily, St. Pete and the Tampa area have not had a direct hit, but every year the threat of a hurricane is always a possibility. So you want to be prepared during hurricane season. Hurricane season starts in June and goes through the end of October. You really see an uptick usually in July, August timeframe as far as those hurricanes, but really it can occur any of those times. But thankfully, that area hasn't had a direct hit, but it's something that you always need to be prepared for. All right, now when you're building out your hurricane kit, there's definitely key items that you're going to want in your hurricane kit. Number one, of course, you're going to want water. So always get bottled water, grab a case or two. As any case, whenever there's a hurricane thing coming, the grocery stores and things get really packed. Water can fly off the shelves, so make sure that you get that 1 or 2 packs of water that is needed. Do that sooner rather than later because some of the stores will run out of those supplies, but also don't be hoarding water. You don't need 12 cases of water. Save some for everyone. All right, so don't be one of those people that has like 10 packs of water in their car. Of course, you're going to need a flashlight. So one like this is really good for emergencies. It actually has a thing where you can break out a window. Not only does it have the regular flashlight, it also has emergency flares. So it has this, that's emergency signal. And it has a little emergency light here that you can signal with people. And it even has this, that's a little strobe light. So this one is great because it has all these other features. And you're going to need something like that. So that's a flashlight called Life Gear. You're always going to want a first aid kit. This is a travel first aid kit here. So it's packed with a little bit of everything. Even when there's not a hurricane, every house should have a basic first aid kit. This one has a little extra as far as medications, wound care. That's another thing. If you do take medications, you want to make sure that you have enough for during the hurricane. You don't want to be running out. So if you have prescriptions that you take, you want to go and get an extra supply of those if needed. I also have a survival kit pack with this extra ponchos and things, just all kinds of emergency gear. So I would also recommend that. It has glow sticks, matches, all kinds of survival stuff. It's always good to have a survival kit as well. You're also going to want to pack out any food that you want. Obviously, you're going to have to think of things that are not, that you don't have to heat up in the oven or microwave. If the water is contaminated, it's always good to have a life straw. That will let you use this utensil in order to drink water safely. And then you're going to want a pack that's either solar powered or you can crank that will charge your cell phone. So this actually has a weather radio and you can actually turn the handle here and crank it. It also has a power thing for your cell phone. So if you just start cranking it like this, you can actually power up your cell phone. It's also battery powered, so you can charge your cell phone that way as well. So there's multiple options. So you, no matter what, you're able to charge your phone. And you also have access to the weather radio if your power goes out. Then if you're thinking more long term and looks like, hey, it could be hit and you might be without power for several days, you're going to want food for those several days. And then you're also going to want to think about having a generator because you're not going to be without power for that long. So you want some type of generator. Now, when you do have a generator, you want to make sure that it's outside and well ventilated because carbon monoxide is deadly. So you want to make sure that you are not putting yourself or your family in danger. You're also going to want to think of any supplies that you need for your pets and make sure they're safe as well. And those are really all of the basic necessities that you need. Some kits do get fancier. There's always other things that you can use, but that's the bare minimum that you should be storing if you have to use that hurricane kit. But those are good basic things to have around your house anyway. I mean, just if you have a major storm, the power goes out, it's always good to have that flashlight or candles. It's always good to have a survival kit and everyone should have a basic first aid kit anyway, just in case something happens. So those are all the key items that you're going to need during a hurricane. So it's similar to like if you're preparing for a tornado or something. The only difference is you go up higher. You want to get away from the water. In a hurricane versus a tornado, you're sheltering and getting in a basement. But the high winds are both a threat for both. Hey, like I was saying before, you can buy a lot of those hurricane kits, especially some of the more advanced ones on Amazon. Also, ready.gov is a good place to get those. You don't need anything super elaborate, but everyone should have those basic supplies, and everyone should always have a first aid kit and survival kit just for basic necessities. Of course, you're going to want your food and water. But yeah, I would always recommend getting at least a basic hurricane kit and having it ready. You're also going to want to pack up a small bag so you have a go bag in case you do have to evacuate. So if you're new to the area, I really think that hurricane is kind of equivalent to tornado or something like that. Each area has its own natural disasters. So if you're from the West Coast, maybe you're more used to dealing with earthquakes, wildfires. The Midwest, we have the tornadoes. So every region has their natural disasters they have to deal with. So don't be afraid of it. If you prepare for a hurricane, you don't really have anything to worry about. Yes, water can damage your house. Yes, it can be a little crazy, but if you follow the instructions of the officials, then you should be good to go. And if you're prepared, you're going to come out okay. So I wouldn't worry about it too much, but you do need to be prepared and follow the instructions of the local officials. And thankfully, like I've said before, the Tampa Bay area hasn't had a direct hit in over 100 years. Usually they'll either spin up and hit further north, or they'll spin down and hit further south. So this storm, we did feel a little bit more of the impact of it with the storm surge, but we did not have a direct hit. It hit over 100 miles north of us. And so that's always a plus. It's terrible that it hit the other area, but thankfully for Tampa Bay and our surrounding area, we haven't had those hits. So that is something to think about if you're relocating to Tampa. That you do want to be prepared for it, but I wouldn't let it stop you from buying a home. But there definitely is something to think about for that beachfront property. I would still definitely recommend buying a beachfront property if that is something that you're interested in, but you do need to be prepared, and you do need to make sure that you do have things ready and that you have that lower level cleared in case you do start to take in water. That way you're not having a lot of water damage if possible. But sometimes, these things can't be helped, but that's why you have insurance. So just keep all that in mind. I'm going to put some links below that you can click on for some of those hurricane kit items. So look out for that. If you have any questions at all, whether it's about hurricanes or if you're looking to move in 90s or 90 days, give me that call, shoot me that text, or send me that email. I can't wait to hear from you, and I can't wait to help you. Welcome home. You're going to love living in the Tampa Bay area.